So, amid protests at the scarcity of cash and anger boiling over because many businesses are rejecting the old notes for transactions, Nigeria's currency crisis continues, and so does public confusion about the old and new money. The Supreme Court adjourned today the legal challenge to the central bank's policy of scrapping old banknotes, even as more states joined the case on the side of the central bank and others against. It's a mammoth tussle that now has strong elements of politics, with the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, pointedly accusing politicians of buying up and storing the new banknotes for use in the elections. So, after today's moves at the Supreme Court, is the validity of the 1,500 and 200 naira notes extended for circulation, marketing, and legal and economic activity in Nigeria or not? And what was the upshot from today's hearing in Abuja?
We are working towards solving this problem. It's a national problem, and we are working towards solving this problem. There aren't two sides. We are affected on both sides. We are trying to solve it. Please, I want you to know the government is not deliberately frustrating the plaintiffs. This is a problem that we are trying to solve. With a little time, it will be solved. Please, I beg you, let us not inflame it. It's going to be solved. It's been solved. We are getting over it.
The policy or directive given by the CBN governor becomes inconsequential in the light of the fact that the court has extended the lifespan of the interim order it granted on the 8th of February to the fact that the old notes and the new notes, all of them are legal tenders in Nigeria. So until the motion on note is taken on Wednesday. So that is the current position as of now. Any other step in contrary to that will be in contravention of the orders of the court.
Well, for more on this nettlesome question, I'm joined now on the line from Lagos by Professor Paul Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and former Chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association's section on public interest and development law. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You are, of course, a senior advocate of Nigeria, so you know more about these things than we do. I mean, there have been contrary questions raised about what actually happened in court today, specifically over the question of whether the Supreme Court renewed its order extending the deadline within which the old naira notes should remain in circulation. I mean, what do you make of what happened in court today?
Thank you, and viewers, it's my pleasure to be here. Nothing strange happened today. The Supreme Court, and indeed many other courts, start today. The Supreme Court sits on possibly every day, except on public holidays under the Public Holidays Act. So the case initially by the three Attorney Generals of states against the Attorney General of the Federation is just one of the cases that comes before the court. But for the hyping and the political character it's acquiring, it's a normal day. Three parties go to court, sue the federal government. Motion for joinder is brought. Until those parties are joined, that court will not make progress in that case. The court has discretion to join or to refuse to join them, but considering the Supreme Court and the capacity and influence of that court, it will naturally join every necessary party and hear all parties and come to a decision, because they know that their decision is the law at any point. That is what comes up from the American School of Reality Jurisprudence. So having a motion for joinder by at least 8 states, it would be unwise for the Supreme Court to continue or to make pronouncements without hearing these motions for joinder. So as we speak, 6 states are joined among the plaintiff applicants or claimants, and 2 states are joined, the Attorney General of the Federation, as co-defendants. And the court had also been very magnanimous and considerate, realizing the effect of the issue on the generality of Nigerians. And that's why you could see that the Supreme Court will give a date of 1 week and another 1 week ahead. It is unprecedented. You will know that there are some cases that will get 2 years adjournment from the date when it is heard, because the court is overwhelmed with all kinds of cases. So there's nothing strange that would have happened today. Every legal practitioner that is familiar with the proceedings of the Supreme Court and indeed due process, we know that that matter will be adjourned for a date for hearing, and that will be the 22nd. My concern and my worry is that it is too close to the presidential elections. But I think that the Supreme Court would have considered all that.
Thank you very much indeed for setting that out, because of course many people are not legal persons, so they need to have things set out in fairly simple terms, as you have. But I think the question on the minds of many people is with regard to the original ex parte order that was made by the Supreme Court, the interim injunction essentially that allowed the extended the deadline for the expiration of the old notes. What we're keen to know is, what does today's adjournment mean? Does it mean that the old notes remain valid till the 22nd of February?
The answer is yes, and then I will take it this way. Legally speaking, by the letters of the law, it remains legal tender. All the currency, I'm not even talking about old and new now, because the issue of old and new has been suspended by an order of the Supreme Court, though an interim order. So it may not be proper to say the old currency, the new currency. Now, at that level, at the legal jurisprudence level, that is what ought to be, and that is the law as is now. But I'm a student of the School of Jurisprudence that believes that when law ignores culture, that law becomes paper, may not even be worth the ink with which it is written. What am I trying to say? The Supreme Court has made that order. It's a legal tender. How will it be enforced? Does it work with the psyche of the Nigerian society? As we speak, the courts are not accepting that currency. I'm not talking about any other institution, even the court system. You cannot even file process in court with paying with the old currency. Now, as we speak, it trickles down to a large percentage of the economy cannot accept the old currency because I've left the legal balance. I'm not talking about the reality on the street. It's legal tender because you can use this for exchange. You cannot use the old currency for exchange. You cannot buy pepper with it, cannot buy tomato with it, cannot buy pure water with it. You cannot, and as you drive on the street, you see the face of even the street traders, shop owners, sad because they cannot accept that currency we are talking about. And again, they are yet faced with a decision of the Supreme Court. Oh, it's a legal tender. So that's the quandary, the quagmire. So to the extent that it is a Supreme Court order, yes, but enforcement, I doubt if it has. It will be obeyed more in breach, as you see, because many agencies of government and commercial and corporate entities do no longer take and accept those currencies. Worse still, the branch controller of CBN in Bauchi, Idris Andaza, had announced that as far as CBN is concerned, that it is not a legal tender. And he opens up the further argument that is being pandied. CBN is not a party to the suit. And so any order of the Supreme Court has no meaning. I don't buy that submission and that idea. It will only lead to chaos. In fact, it is not legally sound. And I urge hearers to take proper approach to it. When you sue the Attorney General of the Federation, you have sued the entire federal government of Nigeria. So the CBN is an agency of the federal government of Nigeria. So you cannot say that you sue the Attorney General, so you must necessarily join the CBN. You don't need to join the CBN or any other agency, because it's the chief law officer of the state, and the Constitution provides for the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and its powers. And he's also the Minister of Justice, so it's a different office from other offices. So what I'm trying to say is very clear. You may win the argument, but you will certainly lose the man on the street. The man on the street will not accept the money. You have the money, and you will win him in the argument. So, since the Supreme Court had been considered to adjourn the matter to Wednesday, I urge that that matter be heard on that day. The issue of whether the Supreme Court has jurisdiction or not will be resolved by the Supreme Court. It cannot be resolved by anyone outside the Supreme Court. You can make the argument well, but that argument will not stop the Supreme Court from its jurisdiction to determine whether it has jurisdiction. That is a fallout from Section 6 of the Constitution. And Nigerians, I urge Nigerians to be a little bit more patient. It's so tough. I can't even buy or sell easily now. I have restrictions on my rights. You have. Many Nigerians have. You go to the banks, you see long queues. You go to the bank, you see Nigerians sitting down on the floor. Many families have gone hungry. Many are walking on the street from to wherever they are going. Okay, they can't afford bus fares, not because they don't have money. That is not what governance is all about. I urge all concerned. This argument of it is hoarding, it is CBN, that's not the concern of the citizen. The social contract in this country is that we have given power, we have given ceded power to the executive. They should find a way to fix this challenge. And before I round up on this, in my adult years as a Nigerian, I've never seen this kind of situation before, where there are no fuel. While you are battling with fuel, you are battling with currency, you are battling with election that is imminent. We have to travel, many of us, to go to where you vote and all that. You are battling with census. It's unprecedented.
Well, I mean, you've made the point quite lucidly there. And on the question of the legal aspect of all of this, which is the very sort of focused aspect we want your considerable experience on, we also understand that, I mean, I'm just putting it in the context of everything that you've just said. You've spoken quite comprehensively. We heard that President Buhari was considering extending the validity of those old naira notes by 60 days. That's being reported by one news outlet, and in return for that, apparently there'd been some behind the scenes discussion with the governors that they would in return withdraw the case from the Supreme Court. Obviously that didn't happen, so we haven't heard anything about extending the validity of those old naira notes. But I'm wondering whether in the context of the legal conundrum, if you like, that's emerged as a result of this, and in the legal context that you were explaining to us, whether or not such an extension, and also in the human aspect of it, whether such an extension would just become, in a sense, meaningless.
Now, this is my understanding and perception. What the Supreme Court had done is to suspend that policy. The Supreme Court is also aware that, that under the CBN Act, if you read from section 17 to 20, you find that the Supreme Court, the CBN has powers to make some of these regulations they are making. All that the Supreme Court is saying is, just hold on, let's hear these complaints, and we will give an opinion, a decision on this point. Having said that, the president has executive powers. Remember, CBN, this matter is revolving around section 6 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1999. This 1999 Constitution, which you are looking at section 6, there is a section 5 and there is a section 4. Section 4 deliberately comes before section 5 and section 6. The makers of the law, the Constitution, have their reasons for it. So the president has powers, including executive powers, to ameliorate the pains and suffering of the citizens. The Nigerian, the average Nigerian, doesn't so much get excited with this rainbow. What I mean by rainbow is table tennis. You know, you play to me, I play to you. That's going on. Many lives are being lost because you can't afford medicine now. If your children are sick or you're sick, you can't. You're not even sure of food. So it is so important that even the president can, by executive powers, intervene without delay. I do not see the Supreme Court going against that. It doesn't infract on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is solely suspending that policy for a little while. And again, I expect patriotism to take the center stage, even on the side of the governors, rather than so much joining the progressive governors, the PDP governors, the APC governors, the Nigerian Governors Forum should have emergency meetings and find a way to resolve this matter, possibly get a quick treaty on understanding, agreement, and discontinue this suit. I will be happy to see that happen tomorrow. They all fly to Abuja easily, so they should fly into Abuja quickly. Get to one of the liaison offices, sit down, reach decisions, get to meet the president, agree with the president. Things must not end up in the courts. And I want to say this. Many times we are the ones, Nigerians, the politicians are the ones that corrupt the courts. The courts are not prepared for political cases. This matter is much more a political case. Even though you can identify some rights, but they are ancillary rights.
Yes, I take on board exactly what you're saying there. I take on board the fact that there are very big political implications to this case. So let me ask you this as a final question, and thank you very much indeed for your analysis so far. I mean, you talked about at the outset the fact that you were very concerned that the case had been adjourned till next week, just 3 days before the presidential elections. I'm asking you to wear your hat as a former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association's section on public interest. What is the implication of that in your assessment?
The implication is that there will be uncertainty in the economy, in social life, and even political life until 3 days to a national election. Many people have moved from their areas of registration. There will be a lot of travels. There will be a lot of arrangements leading up to the election. How will that happen? It may incidentally lead to disenfranchisement, because if you can't get funds, how will you prepare for the election? And again, it may also expose the electorates to financial inducements, because if you have your children and your entire family having no food to eat, and some politician comes around and says, well, join us and then we'll give you money so you can feed and not die of hunger, it will amount to a huge temptation. And these are things that we shouldn't allow to happen. This is not the time to have economic policy that will deprive Nigerians of their
Okay. I want to thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us and to explain all these complicated legal matters, as well as the things that are in the public interest. Professor Paul Ananaba is a senior advocate of Nigeria and former chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association section on public interest and development law, and he was talking to me on the line there from Lagos.